Crack don't allow.
Secret though.
Found their way out of
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
Welcome to This Week with Sheriff Dave Phalen, a weekly program here on LSN Television, Time Warner out of Lancaster, and also we are carried by a number of radio affiliates, and do appreciate each and every one of you joining us each and every week where we talk about things within the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office and beyond. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank the folks here at Fairfield Christian Academy that helped put this program together. This week, Brett Cord, glad to meet you, Brett.
Good to meet you.
In fact, we just met over lunch within the last couple hours.
Yeah.
And as many of our viewers and listeners know, my wife has a ministry called Grace Haven Place where they have girls, when they get out of jail, if they have nowhere to go, that's where they end up with her. And you are part of Prison Fellowship.
Yes.
Chuck Colson's originated that, if I remember correctly.
Yes, he did. Chuck Colson was the first guy that went to prison for Watergate.
Okay.
And out of his experience inside, he would say that he went from having an office down the hall from the president to having a cell down the block from a murderer. So
wow.
A big change, and out of that he founded Prison Fellowship back in the mid-'70s.
And so for our listeners and viewers that may not know what Prison Fellowship is all about, tell us a little bit about that ministry.
Well, Prison Fellowship works with prisoners. Obviously, we do ministry both inside and out. We do the basic type of prison ministry that most people would expect, like Bible studies, services, prayer partners, but we also do reintegration and pre-release classes on the inside. We do bigger events, yard events as well, and then we also do re-entry stuff, helping men and women as they're released and back into their communities to help them to be a part of society in such a way to ultimately to be the person God's created them to be. And the final thing, just I want to add, make sure I give my plug for Angel Tree. We also are part of the Angel Tree ministry, which serves the children of inmates at Christmas time and throughout the year.
Now, are both those ministries, are they all over the United States? Are they in certain states? Or
no, there's Prison Fellowship has a presence in every state in the country and a number of other countries around the world as well.
And primarily, you are the director for Ohio.
I'm the field director for Ohio, yes, that's correct. And I oversee any of the work that's in any of the prisons in Ohio, mainly state prisons, but we do have presence through Angel Tree specifically in a couple of the federal prisons in Ohio, and we do have some jail work in a couple of places too.
So how many people are part of this Prison Fellowship? Is it primarily volunteers, or is it primarily a paid staff position, or how does that
It's
work?
primarily a volunteer-run ministry. I am the staff person in the state, which sounds really impressive, but there's nobody.
That's right.
I'm the guy. Okay. But the great thing is I get to share the vision for what we do, to recruit volunteers, train them, and then support them as they do the different programmings, be it either in the prisons or in our re-entry locations around the state.
And some of the successes, as I understand it, with Prison Fellowship, is the fact that it helps as far as the number of times, the recidivism rate of a lot of the prisoners that go through this.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately the goal is completion of life, if that makes sense. We take men and women who have been on a very long road to get to where they are, to make the decisions that have got them incarcerated. And oftentimes, as you know, what gets them there, you deal with it on a regular basis. It could be drugs, addiction problems, or just a lot of bad decisions. And often that comes from a number of different things, but it's usually their background, a lack of support, a lack of opportunities where they've been raised. So we want to come alongside of them with the message of hope of Christ and see them change and move forward in a new direction. And it takes time also, just like it took them a long time to get to where they are today, to get to where God wants them to be. So we kind of come alongside of them with that, and with the hope that not just that they'll get out of prison, not
Right.
just that they'll stay out of prison, not just that they'll be a good dad or a good mom or a good part of the community. Again, ultimately, who's God created them to be.
Okay.
And that's really what I think Jesus wants for all of us, to be the person God's created us to be.
And one thing you said I thought was interesting and probably good, there is a component of that. Once they get out of prison, that you're still out there. It's just not like you walk out the door and the next time we see you, maybe when you come back, we'll never see you again. So what do you have in place once they actually get outside the prison walls?
Well, it's a couple of things, and it just depends on what our involvement with them was before our time. There's a couple ways we engage these inmates on the inside to begin this process. Angel Tree is one of the easiest doors to get into the lives of these men. They have an opportunity in the summer to sign up their children to receive a Christmas gift. And what happens is they write down their children's information. We take all that information and process it and confirm it. And then local churches will ask for a certain number of kids. And when they get those kids, then at Christmas time, they buy them gifts and either have a party and bring them into their church or deliver those gifts to their homes. Well, that's a win-win for everybody.
Right.
First, what a great model that someone loves their kid enough to do that for them.
Right.
And it's not unusual that out of that men or women will become involved in prison fellowship programming because they saw that prison fellowship cared enough to make sure their kids were taken care of at Christmas time. Or they may get involved through Bible studies or this new reintegration program we're doing. So once they're released, then our hope is to help them through we would call it a community resource team for reentry when they get out. And that's where we would try to find them a mentor, literally, that would, if isn't with them before they're released, is there the day they're released. We'll pick them up from wherever they're released from and get them we kind of look at it in threes. That first 3 hours, what are the first things you need in those 3 hours? A place to live probably. You might need your ID. If you need meds, different things like that, So the first 3 days, the first 3 weeks, and the first 3 months. There are different things that come up. And our hope is with a mentor that they'll plug them into a larger community resource team that will help them meet all the needs they have to get them on the road to a successful life.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the long and short of it.
Yeah, I've often heard that probably the two things that happen when someone gets out of jail is they need a place to live, and but at some point they need a job.
Yeah.
So that's tough.
Yeah, and that's part of the challenge is identifying organizations and businesses that will hire former felons. And they're out there. They don't always advertise it because that's not always good for their own image. But they either will do it because they have a need for workers, and that's a
Okay.
population that can fill that need, or they actually care about former felons and want to get them involved. And actually the state of Ohio is doing some pretty cool stuff to try to, and has done some pretty cool stuff to try to help former felons get employment, probably aware of some of the bonding and different tax breaks that are available for that. And also there's a push by a number of county organizations to ban the box. Have you ever heard of that? But to take off
I have not heard of
ban the box, to take off the box on a job application that asks if you've been accused
Okay.
or convicted of a felony.
So, to take that off. So
And
that wouldn't-
not so that they can't tell that truth, but oftentimes an employer, they see that right away.
and they throw it in the trash.
They throw it in the trash
They're
and they
done
never
with
even
that.
get a chance.
Yeah, yeah. Great program. Now you originally grew up in Westerville?
Yeah.
Now how did some kid from Westerville end up in prison ministry?
I ask myself that a lot. Again, my whole life I've been in ministry, my adult life, and I used to work with high school and middle school kids with an organization called Young Life.
And we have that here in Lancaster.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of new, and they're doing, within the last year or so, they brought that into Lancaster High School.
That's outstanding.
And doing a great job.
It is, and what I loved about Young Life is one of the things I love about prison fellowship. In both, the idea is we leave our comfortable worlds, adult worlds, and we would go into the world of high school kids. And now I leave my comfortable adult world and I go into the world of prisoners. I go
Okay.
inside. Tonight I'll be down at Southeastern Correctional Institute, and there's something otherworldly the first time you walk in and you hear that gate clang behind you. And I can remember it well. You don't just hear it, you feel it. And you realize you've stepped into a world that is not your own, a world you really don't have any control over. And you have to take the attitude that God's called me and just be not afraid and just go and see what happens.
Now, one of the things that I'm sure is important, in fact, we mentioned this over lunch, is the fact that volunteers a big component of this.
Mm-hmm.
And so if someone's out there listening or watching today, how would they reach out to you, number one? And number two, what would they do? I mean, how does this kind of work? I'm interested in it.
Yeah.
I've never been in a jail or I've never been in the prison. I don't know if I have the skills or ability to kind of do this. Well, how does that come together?
Well, I think it's a calling-based ministry. I think the first time I went into prison was my very first day in this job last summer.
Okay.
Brand new to it, but I do believe God will put a calling on someone's heart, and that's how they end up there. I think there are tremendous opportunities, and there's almost 50,000 people incarcerated in the state prisons in Ohio. There's a whole mission field in our backyard of forgotten men and women who need someone to leave their world and walk into theirs and bring them hope. And that's really what they're lacking, is hope. There's nothing more powerful than that. I think here in Lancaster, in Fairfield County, at SCI, there at Southeastern Correctional Institute, there is some tremendous opportunities there to reach out. To start with, this reintegration program we're doing that the state of Ohio asked us to come and implement is pretty exciting. And it's part of this whole process I was talking about a minute ago with the mentoring in the middle of it and the back end of the whole community resource team and local churches who come alongside of these men and women as they're released. But we do have a need for facilitators for these classes. It's a great curriculum that we've used in other states that it's evidence-based to lower recidivism and make a difference in these men and women's lives. So the opportunities are there.
So if someone's out there and they're interested, you're going to help them. You're going to train them what they need to do. We're just not going to drop them off the prison door and say go in. So they're going to be trained. They're going to probably have some mentors with them and kind of help them through that.
Absolutely. That's a big part of what I do is the training. I mean, I do the recruiting, the training, and then the supporting of our volunteers. And Prison Fellowship has a great, you can go through our training online, or I could present the training myself also to groups of people who are interested.
Is there a way they can get in touch with you?
There is. The best way is either email or calling me.
Okay, and that number?
My number is 614-531-1008.
Okay.
And my email is brettbeery, _core, C-O-R-E, at pfm.org.
Okay. With us this week is Brett Core and with Prison Fellowship. Brett, if you don't mind, we'd like to have you back next week and maybe talk about some personal stories or some things that you've seen up front and personal in some of these prisons where you've seen some lives change and things like that. I think that would be of interest to our viewers and listeners. Can you join us?
I can. I will.
Okay. Do appreciate you being with us this week. Brett Core with Prison Fellowship, nice enough to join us. Kind of on short notice, actually. We just met over lunch about an hour and a half ago, a couple hours ago, and I said, we're taping a TV show. If you'd like to come down, he was certainly delighted to do that to get the word out, and do appreciate you coming in on short notice. For you, the viewers and listeners, do appreciate you tuning in, joining us this week, and certainly I appreciate the folks over at Time Warner, LSN right here in Lancaster, and also our radio affiliates that put this program out to many, many of you, and do appreciate the nice comments I get about this program each and every week. And again, the folks here at Fairfield Christian Academy, appreciate them coming forward to put this program together. J.T. Burcham, a number of students each and every week. Well, the clock on the wall says we've got to go. Do appreciate each of you joining us. We are on each and every week. If you have any questions of me, feel free to call the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office, 740-652-7252. Until next week, God bless. If you're out there driving, buckle up, and we'll see you right here next week.
Cotton balls, duct tape, spoon, needle, thread, Scalpel.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.